Welcome to Real Estate Investors Property Analyzer, the tool that enables investors to analyse the yields and capital growth on any investment property anywhere in Australia. Before you get started with Property Analyzer, it's important to look at your My Default profile. We do have another video walking you through this, so do click through and have a look at that first if you haven't already. Once you set your default profile, any analysis that you do will be tailored to your unique circumstance. When we get started, we go to the property name or address and we start to add an address. In this instance, we'll type up 10 Smith Street in Collingwood, and we're going to choose it's a house, and we're going to presume that the land size, and we're just using a demo property, is 300 metres squared. Set the number of bedrooms, bathrooms and car parks associated with that property. Remember to click Use My Default Profile. This is going to use the default profile we set up earlier when we do the analysis. Click Add Property. Next, it's going to ask us to confirm the mortgage and purchase costs. Now, because we've entered in our default profile, we've been able to have some of these figures filled out for us. We can adjust it if we need to, alter the deposit, the purchase amount, let's say this one's on the market for $550,000, and what the market value of the property is now. Let's say we're buying it below market value at, say, $650,000. We can put in any capital improvements, solicitor costs. We can calculate the stamp duty too. So by clicking on this, based on your state, you can calculate the stamp duty. Let's just put in a figure for now. Any other closing costs that might be associated with the purchase. You can add additional loans, so one or more loans associated with the property. Put in place the bank, whether it's an interest only or principal loan. Put in the amount of the loan, that's calculated based off of our deposit amount. Any establishment fees, any other loan costs associated. Next, we put in our interest rate, let's say 4.5%, and if there's any valuation fees associated. Next, we go on to rent and expenses. First thing we need to do is choose whether it's a residential or holiday rental property. By default, residential long term. Rate of occupancy, so let's presume that for 2 weeks of the year we're looking for tenants, so maybe we make it 50. What the weekly rent might be, so let's say we're expecting to get about $450 a week. Put in the rates, land tax, any other options that you'd like to alter can be done so here. And then we click Next to go to tax and market. Here we can look at what entity is going to buy the property. You can have multiple entities at Real Estate Investor, and that might be a self-managed super fund, a trust, or personal ownership in this case. You can also put in what the percentage ownership of a property might be, and the numbers will be altered especially for that amount. You can create a new entity here or just choose one that's already been set up. Put in place what you think the consumer CPI growth might be, consumer price index. Adjust for capital growth. Perhaps we think over the period, perhaps we think it's going to be maybe a bit softer than what Collingwood's been in the past. So Real Estate Investors telling us here that it's 6.8% over the term, but let's say we're expecting 5% growth. And then you can choose that it's a low property, medium or high, where the nearest capital city is, the property type and construction time frame. This will then calculate depreciation. Next up, we have our results. So we can have a look as we scroll down and have a look at some of the information being presented to us. We've got an overview first, so we've got the capital growth rate, consumer price index, the variables that we already set, what the property market value is today, and then perhaps what that's going to look like with the capital growth and the consumer price being applied to that. We can have a look at how the loan sits. We chose interest only, so it's not moving at this point. However, if you did choose principal plus interest, it would reduce accordingly. We can have a look at some of the statistics, what the equity is going to be as it grows over time. Have a look at what our LVR looks like, what extra funds might be accessible. So if we're able to access funds, we can say, well, we're actually targeting an 80% loan to value ratio. So whenever we can tap back up to 80%, what sort of money can we tap into? The buying power, rental income, and then it identifies what the gross and net yields are for you. Any of the other factors that we factored in are shown, so any other cash deductions. And we scroll down the bottom, and we actually have a look at the summary. So as you can see down the bottom, this is a negatively geared property. We're looking at before tax, what the number might be, both on a per annum and a per week basis. If I go to the graphs, it's going to show me some of the graphical views of what we just saw. So first thing we can see is whether there's any tax income that's applied. Now, this property here, we haven't been able to get any tax deductions, so there's nothing shown. However, if there was a tax deduction, that would be indicated with the blue. We can have a look at what the market value of the property is versus the loan. As you can see, the loan's staying static because it's interest only, and we can see that over time the market value of the property has grown. And we can scroll down and have a look at some of the cash flow information. If I click through the summary, it'll take me into this view here. So this is a summary of the property overall. So if we scroll back at the top, if there's a picture for the property, now we've just added our own. We can add a picture if we went and inspected a property. If we'd used Real Estate Investors Investor Search, that picture would have been passed through already. As we scroll down, we can see some snapshot information, years 1, 3, 5 and 10, some of the market statistics. We can add our own notes, we can add our own documents, and we can see some of the charts in relation to property within that suburb. That's been a view of Property Analyzer. We hope it's been beneficial, and we look forward to helping you invest further in the future.